Hi everyone. Today we'll talk about the differences between using Bong Sau from a bridged position and an unbridged position that you need to know in order to apply Bong Sau successfully from any range. Now, if you're already doing Chi Sau, then you already have a good idea about how to use Bong Sau from a bridged position. But what if the guy is squaring off in front of you and there is no bridge? How do you use Bong Sau then? So from an unbridged position, one of the most important uses of a Bong Sau is to use your lead arm to defend a straight punch coming from the opponent's same side arm. And this works whether the opponent's same side arm is his lead arm or his rear arm. A lot of fighters today will simply collapse their arms back and use their forearms or their hands to block the incoming strike, which, as I've discussed in previous videos, is not a good way of defending if you're not wearing any gloves or if you're just wearing MMA gloves. I also want to mention that some Wing Chun guys might advocate the use of Biu Sau instead of Go Bong Sau, which could be valid, but that's not the topic of this discussion, so we won't get into that today. Now, back to our unbridged Go Bong Sau. What's important to note here is that because there is no bridge, you have to use your eyes to read the opponent's body language in order to determine when he's going to strike so that you can time your Bong Sau accordingly. In other words, don't try to apply sticky hand sensitivity when there is no bridge, unless you hate yourself, because you're going to get punched in the face. What I mean is that if you're already bridged before the opponent initiates the strike from some sort of stand-up wrestling or grappling exchange, as represented by Chi Sau, it's possible in a very short amount of time to read a change in the opponent's energy and intent through touch, and then transition your arm into a Bong Sau on time to successfully defend a strike. But starting from an unbridged position, that's pretty much impossible to do. For example, some people believe that one way to apply Bong Sau unbridged is that if you and your opponent both happen to strike each other at the same time, that a momentary bridge will be created by you brushing against his arm on the inside, which will allow you to feel the arm, assess vectors, and deploy a Bong Sau on time before you get punched in the face. And let me tell you, in that short amount of time, and with all the adrenaline pumping, that's not going to happen. And that's assuming that a momentary bridge is even formed. What if he throws a strike with his elbow flared, like most people do, and there is no bridge? If you're used to only relying on a bridge and touch sensitivity to determine when to deploy your Bong Sau, you're going to miss the opportunity to prove that Bong Sau actually works, and you might never get another chance. Plus, as you already know, once a strike is thrown with true intent, it's extremely difficult to change it into anything else until the striking motion is complete. So the best case scenario in our example here is that it ends up being a one-for-one exchange, whether there's a momentary bridge or not. And the worst case scenario is that he lands and you don't, because he has the outside lane, which means that he can deflect your punch as he's punching you, unless you've developed the ability to visually recognize when the opponent is about to throw a punch and to deploy your Bong Sau on time without having to rely on a bridge. Now that you know the difference between using a Bong Sau effectively from a bridged and an unbridged position, there's another fundamental difference in another basic Wing Chun technique that every practitioner needs to know in order to avoid getting punched in the face. So if you love your face, click on this video right here, and I'll catch you in the next one.